And what's your date of birth?
October 22nd, 55.
And your place of birth, where were you born?
San Jose.
How tall are you?
5'7".
You got a driver's license here?
Yeah.
Just relax, let me do the work. If we mess them up, we have to do them all over again. Just look straight ahead when we take the picture. Okay, now turn to your left. Step back just a little bit so we can see the marker there. Straight ahead. Okay. Now turn around the other way. Step back just a little bit. Okay, we got it. You can step down.
I knew that I was going to get busted. I knew it was going to be something really up there, like murder, kidnapping, or bank. I remember when we drove to the 7-Eleven store, my crime partner got out.
We'll hurry it up, huh?
Yeah.
Give me money. I'll blow your damn head off.
What do you want?
All of it, in a paper bag.
Okay. Faster, come on.
Okay, all right.
Okay. The coin?
Everything.
Come on.
All right.
Faster. Okay, all right. No, man. Come on, man. No.
Let's go.
I remember my crime partner hopping into my truck with a shotgun, emptying out 2 empty cartridges, throwing them out the window. He was laughing, saying, "Hey, Kenny, man, you ought to have seen it was a trip." He was begging for his life, and I blew his head off. I could have done the killing myself. They can charge you just as the same as the guy who pulled the trigger.
I can't understand it. I started this business when I was 15 years old, and I was looking at maybe someday that he would take over the company. But when he got in this problem and all this publicity that I got there, I was ready to sell the company and just move completely out of the state. You know, I can see sometimes kids are hungry, they don't have any money, they need money for their, whatever it is. But Kenny's never needed that.
I can remember Kenny as always being a difficult child, but I can remember also when he was very little, he was a very good baby, but he was a very restless baby, more so than any of my other children. I had the 3 of them really close together, and I would sit down and read to them at nighttime. He would be the first one to get up and move away about 2 minutes after I started the story, just, you know, restless. And he cried an awful lot.
My mom was particular about her house, you know, she always wants a nice, clean house. Always pushing, you know, to be super, super neat, you know. And that's what she did with me. "Hey, Kenny, why don't you wear corduroys, nice shoes, why don't you wear nice shirts?" So I did just the opposite.
Brandy, come on. Come on, boy.
She was always picky about my friends, you know. But I told her a long time ago that was my decision. My friends, you know, I picked them, you pick your friends.
I used to try to bring them down to the plant and get them interested in the construction business and let them operate some of this equipment down there, but he lost all interest in it. Seemed like that he was trying to look for something, and I couldn't help on that because I didn't know exactly what he was looking for.
Well, my dad is a successful contractor, and he's got a few major firms, and all over the country. He's worked for everything. He's worked for everything he's got, you know. And I look up to that. But he got so wrapped up in his business and his making money to build his house and to build his big business bigger and bigger, and he forgot about me. I found a few other buddies were that way too with their family. They just were lonely. They didn't care. They seeking excitement and just looking out for fun. It wasn't no outrageous gang of about 200. It was maybe about 60 or 70. A lot of being in the gang was a sort of security.
I don't even know. Get against what, man?
Get against the wall.
Wait a minute, man.
What have you been doing, snitching on my partners, huh?
Hey, who'd I snitch on, man? I didn't snitch on nobody, man. Hey, wait a
My
minute.
partners are in the joint.
We did a lot of rumbling. We did a lot of fighting. There were guys in there who just didn't care about hurting or getting hurt. Then I got into the gun bit. I was fascinated by guns. A couple cop cars got shot at in the nighttime, and they knew who was doing it. It was my people and me, but they never could prove it.
One day I found a gun in his room. I didn't know what to think. I really didn't know what to say. And I questioned him about it, and he said it was so-and-so's gun, you know. And he says, well, it's registered. I said, well, we'll just call the police. Anyway, we called the police, and to find out the gun had been stolen. That's when they decided to put him at the boys' ranch, because they felt that maybe this is where Kenny needed to go.
This James Boys Ranch is kind of like a rehabilitation center for young people. It's really a reform-type school. I just didn't dig it there. I cut out about 5 times. I attacked the counselor with a shovel. I was in isolation 6 times.
Jesus Christ can make a wonderful difference in a guy's life. You may have fumbled. You may have blown it. In fact, you may have blown it bad. You may have been put out of the game for a while. Well, man, you can get back in that game, and you can win, and you can be on the right track. Because, boy, the Lord can help a guy get it together and really build a brand new life from there.
Friday nights, there was a guy who was a reverend, came out named Reverend Gordon McLean. I personally didn't like the guy. In fact, I personally hated everything he stood for.
And honest enough to come to Christ and say, hey, I need a new life. I need your forgiveness. I need your help. And I want you in my heart.
When I first met
But I
Ken,
really
when
hope
we were
that you get
ministering
together
with the
first
guys at the
yourself.
ranch, he was certainly fighting himself. He was trying to make a big impression on the other guys in the bad sense of that term. And he certainly wasn't ready to listen to the things that we were trying to share with him spiritually. So I felt at that time, Ken was really headed for more and serious troubles unless he changed.
The ranch has really fine counseling. You're not considered a con or a prisoner.
Your future's really in your hands. We've done what we can for you. You've got this potential, but yet you've got to do something about yourself, about your behavior.
It's going to be hard.
Nobody's saying it's going to be easy. It's going to be hard, but you can do it.
After I got out of the ranch, I started moving on to bigger and better things. A lot of stealing, a lot of burglaries. When you do something daring, do something that's, is illegal and you do it, you get your kicks. Some people get their kicks that way, You just build up a certain amount of adrenaline in your body, that gets you mentally high, And when you get that much in there, you don't do anything really just to keep it up. And it's just a good feeling, and it's fun really just to get chased, to see if you can get away. How good really are you? And you find out when you start pulling stuff like that without getting caught.
Kenny. Over here by the car. Let's go. Want to talk to you.
You guys want to step back over there?
And the cops really had it down on me. They didn't like me at all. Even at the start out, they didn't like me. They heard that I'd been in a lot of trouble with the law, and they were always trying to bust me for burglaries.
What's that for, man? This is a field interrogation card, you know. You meet the description of a suspect.
And sometimes I liked it when I did get caught. And have a good laugh at the cops saying, hey, you knew I was there, but you couldn't bust me. I was just too slick.
It's not too bad. Yeah, well, look who's here. What are you doing smoking? It's about that time of month, don't you think, John? Oh, yeah. You know what we're here for, boys. Collection day.
We had a protection racket going at the high school that I was at. That's the only thing that kept me in high school.
Hey, what do you want? Yeah, are you new here? I've been in this going school here a week. Well, haven't you heard about a little thing that we got going here, like, called the protection racket? Afraid I haven't. Well, you're gonna hear it now. Hey, look, pal. I don't need protection from you.
Sometimes it was protection from other people, but mostly it was buying protection from us, not to hurt them.
You got the money, though? Yeah, okay. That's awesome. Nice.
I was brought up where you have respect for your elders, and I try to get that on to Kenny, but he didn't quite understand that.
So how do you come to a mutual understanding? By talking, but we never could do that. He would fight me in everything I'd have to say, or maybe I would fight him in everything he had to say.
One of the biggest discussions that we had when he got a little rough with his mother, and that's when I got into it, and that's when he left the house the last time, because I just told him, you better pack your things and go. Because if another man ever touched your mother like you did, well, I'd tell you, there'd be curtains for one of them. And I said, I won't allow it, especially you. Your mother had you, you know. Your mother, you know, the mother went through the misery and the pains, and you can treat your mother that way? No.
I hated her. My parents came down to see me, but it was kind of like a forced thing, that they felt it was their duty to come down and see me as a son. I just heard from my attorneys that I was going to probably end up in prison for a long time, maybe doing the maximum of 13 years. After being in there for about 3 months, I was selling with a guy who was 42 years old who murdered his wife. He was into a religious thing that I never did want to get into.
Hey, old man, what are you reading? It's the Bible. It's called The Way. It's a new translation. Very interesting. It's a modern translation. You'd probably like it.
Hey, Bible. Don't tell me what I'm gonna like and what I'm not gonna like. Are you into that stuff, man?
I'm trying.
You're trying, huh? What do you mean you're trying? Are you one of those Christian people, aren't you?
Yes, but not a very good one.
I figure a sucker who murders his wife is a Christian. Wait, what were you doing before you got into this? Were you a wino or you what? What were you?
I was a university professor.
A professor, huh? Is that where you come up off the wall with all your big words?
It's important that a person try to learn to communicate.
Well, I can see right off the top then we ain't gonna get along. You a Christian and whatever, college professor. Is that what you are? Mm-hmm. A college professor and a Bible freak.
I wouldn't call me a Bible freak.
Now, what are you doing reading the Bible then, chump?
My mom got me into this Bible thing, you know. I didn't dig that at all. I think once I prayed and that prayer didn't help, you know, I still got sent up. It didn't do no good, so I figured, heck, what's this all about? I ain't talking to no God. I'm talking to myself, that's all. This Bible is nothing but a book that suckers into people and buying them. That's what I thought of the churches, too. I thought it was a big racket. I figured, hey, if you got to pay to go to church, why go to church? So instead of paying to go to churches, I robbed them instead, you know?
Here they come, Kenny.
Sucker, get the money, Johnny. What, you? Come on. Come on, go!
How long you been into this book, man? Probably for a long time, but only when I needed it.
Only when you needed it.
You don't like smoke, old man?
I love it.
And you're worse than I thought you were. Reading trash like that to cover up with your problems.
Why you call it trash?
Because it is trash, man. I know people like that, man. I got picked up by Jesus freaks and Christians. You want to know something? They're as much Christians as I am, man. They do one thing, then look at it, and then do another thing when they're not holding it. Just like you, you're in the cell right here. Okay, for what? A 187 murder. And then you decide to pick up your Bible, huh?
It helps.
Helps do what? Hey, old man, I'm talking to you, man. It helps do what?
It helps ease a bit of the pain.
What pain, man? You wouldn't kill your old lady unless you didn't want to feel some pain, isn't that right?
Hey, lady, I got a great deal for you today, man. Hey, I
What?
got this tape deck, man. It's a Solar State. You know, it's car stereo. It's bad. I'll tell you what, man. I'll only let you have it for $5. But you can't go wrong with a tape deck like this.
tape deck.
Hey, man, like, yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll give it to you for $4, man. I need some bread, man.
I already have a tape deck.
Hey,
What
me
do you
and
need bread for?
Me and my partner are hungry, man. We need some money to get some
okay,
food.
listen. You're hungry? Why don't you come over to my house for dinner?
Okay,
Okay?
wow. Thank
Is that
you,
okay,
man.
babe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, there's only one stipulation. After we eat, we have a Bible study.
You have what?
A Bible study. You know, with a Bible and you read it?
Hey, wait a minute out of here.
Like, I don't know about my friend. I gotta talk to this guy. Come here.
Let's get out of here, man.
Hey, man, like, I'm hungry, man. Hey, hold on, man. I'm hungry, man. I tell you what, my mind says no, but my stomach says yes.
Pass me the salt, please. Thank you.
This is good.
What are you doing to steak, Holmes?
It's all right, man.
Ken, where do you get your tape decks from anyway?
Let's just say I know where to get them very quick with very little hassle.
Shall we keep on sinning so that God can keep on showing us more and more kindness and forgiveness? Of course not. Should we keep on sinning when we don't have to? For sin's power over us was broken when we became Christians and were baptized to become part of Jesus Christ. Through his death, the power of your sinful nature was shattered. Before I accepted the Lord, I really was a slave to sin. It was like I didn't have control over the things I was doing, and I would be thinking in my head, wow, I don't want to do this, but something just kept forcing me to do some things I didn't want to do, and I didn't have anything to live for.
Right. I agree.
And then I came to the Lord, and he's just filled up with my life with so much happiness. And I'm just really happy now.
What are you thinking of, man?
I don't know, man. I'm thinking about these people. I'm thinking, hey, these people are strange, man. Something's wrong with them, man. They belong in a nut house, or they really have something going about that Lord and that God they were talking about all night.
Must be crazy.
I'll tell you one thing, Holmes, they're a lot happier than we are.
Bible. You and your phony God.
Who turned you off to it?
Who turned me off to it? People like you. Using that for an excuse to cop out. Jesus freak will pick you up and tell you, hey, man, they crammed some pamphlet in your face and said, the Lord saves. Well, where's your God now, man? Hey, I don't see him getting you out of this cell right now. Where is he, huh?
Kenny, you know, this could help you a little bit, too. It might ease a lot of that turmoil.
No.
Why don't you try it?
Because I don't want nothing to do with that, man. Hey, that's a sin, man. That's a disease. That's one disease I don't want to catch.
Hey, old man, you're not in the St. James Hotel, man.
I'm sorry. Stir-crazy ape or a young Al Capone with his guts turning out, why don't you stop fighting and give Christ a chance?
Listen, old punk. I'm sick of you and your phony Bible. How can a religious guy who kills his wife in cold-blooded murder believe in a Bible and tell me all about it, huh? You mind your own business and I'll mind mine, punk, you hear me? Hey, I'm sorry about what I said, man. Hey, Robert, I've been in here almost 4 months, man. I'm uptight. So, hey, hey, I'm sorry about what I said, man. Hey, man, I'm saying I'm sorry. That's off the top, man. Hey, man, if we're gonna be partners and not to sell in here, at least you gotta know how to handshake, right, man? Give me your hand. Shake like this, man. Come on, like this, like that, like this. All right. Okay.
How far did you get in school?
I dropped out when I was a freshman.
Okay, how well do you write? Do you like to write?
No. I don't know how to write that well.
Okay,
man.
how about reading?
No.
Would you like to learn to read better?
Yeah, I'd like to learn how to read, but I can't read. I don't know how. I can read small words.
Okay. If I agreed to teach you, would you agree to be my student? There's only one catch, and that is we've only got one book in here. It's the Bible, and it's...
Start out with the Bible, though?
What, are you going to read the walls?
Hey, man, that kind of language I can understand, man. But a Bible?
All right, listen. It's the only thing we got, okay? Come on. Now, all right, what I want you to do, all right? Don't worry about impressing me. Don't worry about anything, okay? Just start anywhere you want and read what you can. If you hit a word that you stumble on or that you don't understand, ask, all right? In all seriousness, read that as well as you can.
Now in mid-September, all the people assembled at the plaza. You're talking about Princeton, aren't
No, come on, now read it. At the plaza.
In front of Watergate. You're right on. And...
Requested.
Requested.
Okay, do you know what it means? Asked.
For the Lord has brought me here to use me to define the truth, and some preach to make me jealous, thinking that their success will add to my sorrows here in jail. Wow. But whatever their motive for doing it, the fact remains that the good news about Christ is being preached, and I am glad.
Okay, one cold water flat.
How you spell cold?
C-O-E-D-L.
You sure that's right?
I'll work on it. C-O-L-D.
C-O-L-D.
Water. You can abbreviate that. That's H2O. Right. Flat. F-L-A-T. Okay, now what do you want to tell them about this magnificent, you know...
Well, tell them that they don't need pictures to hang on the walls. There's plenty of those. Okay.
Hey.
What about the,
How do you wind up?
What?
How'd you wind up wheeling for a guy that you didn't dig the scene that he was into?
How'd I start the wheel for a guy that I didn't dig the scene that he was into?
Yeah. The trigger man.
I don't know, man. It just happened.
You didn't want to be there, though, did you?
No, not really. I knew kind of what was happening at the time, but I didn't really...
You were afraid of him, right?
No, I wasn't afraid of him. I just, we just drove there and it just happened.
Why don't you try and relax, Kenny?
Relax? Man, look at all that racket. How can you relax?
Hey, you guys, shut up!
You only been hearing that for 2 weeks. I've been hearing it for 4 months.
Yeah. Weren't for the Lord, I probably couldn't sleep either. Weren't for the Lord, I guess I couldn't sleep either. Why don't you stop fighting and give the Lord a chance?
The Lord can help a guy get it together and really build a brand new life from there.
Kenny, the Lord could ease some of that pain and turmoil in you.
Before I accepted the Lord, I didn't have control over the things I was doing and felt like I was a slave to something that I didn't want to be a slave to.
Kenny, God really cares about you, and he does love you.
God cares about us so much that he sent his only son into this world to give his life for us.
He's just filled up my life with so much happiness.
Kenny, Christ can make a real difference in your life.
Come to Christ and say, hey, I need a new life. I need your forgiveness. I need your help. And I want you in my heart.
That night I accepted the Lord into my life. For I live in eager expansion in hope that I will never do anything that will cause me to be ashamed of myself, but that I will always be ready to speak out boldly for Christ while I am going through all these trials. After being chained down for 6 months, I wanted to get out on bail, but the judge kept denying me my bail. Even didn't even want to hear a motion for bail, let alone grant me bail. I talked to Bob about it, and he said, you can't make deals with the Lord, you know. He doesn't work that way. And I told the Lord, I go, hey, if I don't get out, it's not your fault, it's not my fault. You know, it just happened. But if it's your will for me to get out, let your will be done. 2 weeks later, I was out on bail, $200,000 bail, which was a property bond that my parents posted for me.
After Ken was released on bond, Our campus life staff and I spent considerable time with him. We've seen some really exciting things happen in this young guy's life. His commitment to Christ was the start of a very beautiful experience that's kind of blossomed and grown in the last few months that Ken's been out. He's learned a lot about himself. He's learned a lot about the Lord and His Word. And he's drawn really closer to his family, starting to really relate and understand them like, well, maybe he never has before. And they're talking to each other. Now, admittedly, that is a long way to go, and some of these things are just a beginning point with him. But it's a good beginning and a healthy beginning.
In my home situation, I'm not going to say it's fantastic. It isn't. Let's just say it's moved up a few notches, you know.
I think that where I went wrong, and if I would relive my life again, start all over again with Kenneth, I think that I would give him more of my time and more of my love instead of material things. He was searching for attention from me. He wanted a father, and I'm not the easiest man in the world to get along with. I'm hard. I have a shell around me. I didn't let him get close enough to me, but that's wrong.
The worst possible disposition that we could have in this case would be a finding by the jury, of course, that you're guilty as charged with first-degree murder. That would mean, in terms of time, barring any other special kind of considerations that the court might want to give, a minimum of 12 years in a state penitentiary.
Sure, I feel like splitting sometimes and just leaving and saying, okay, I don't want to face what I have to face, goodbye. But there's so many more important things I got to do here with the young people and just sharing my testimony with people.
One of the best indications of Ken's sincerity and his new Christian faith has been his real desire to share with other young people.
So I was into that kind of thing, burglaries, robberies, armed robberies. And I'm just sharing what the Lord has done for me and what He can do for you. He's not going to take all your problems away from you. He's not going to do that. He's just going to help you. But you just can't go up to Him and say, hey, man, I want you to help me out now that I'm in trouble. And then after you get out of this jam, you know, and maybe not get busted for it and think everything's cool and just say, hey, goodbye, sign him off. You can't do that. It just can't be a one-night stand, man. What do you think of that?
Why don't you help me with the Lord?
That's what I'd like to see you get into, man. That'd be a good trip for you.
Yeah.
You know, because you were in my trip before. You were in my gang, and you know what we did. And
The old Kenny I used to know, he was like a cold, sick person. I always wanted to get in hassles and rumble with people, and like now he's just a different person.
Ken has really changed. Earlier, well, I was really concerned that there wasn't much hope for him. But I've seen this young guy under some of the most difficult situations in the face of a major trial and a court action, out of a tragedy, really turn his life around with the Lord's help and direction.
I had a seller named Bob who I was selling with. He was 42 years old. He just got through killing his wife and then met the Lord inside the jail in the maximum security cell. We shared a few things from the book. Well, he tried to share with me, but then I kind of like shined him on all the time, told him, hey, that Bible ain't for me. I'm not into that religious trip. But then after a while, I think it was about 2 weeks after he got there, I really started digging into the Bible. And I really started thinking about my life. What was my life worth then, you know, before I went in? And even after I was in for 4 months, it wasn't nothing. It was just screaming, yelling, and the whole really psycho trip. But after I met the Lord in there, I kind of had him, you know, kind of said, hey, man, I want to get out of here. I'm going crazy. I'm blowing it in here. I know I'm going into an institution real soon. Hey, why don't you kind of help me out? So I prayed, and I prayed hard, asking the Lord if He'd help me get out even for a little short while. And He did. 2 weeks later, I went to court on a motion for bail. And the judge granted the motion, then I went back 2 weeks later, and my parents set the $200,000 property bond for me to be released. I kind of said to myself, well, thank you, Lord, for helping me out when I wasn't even worth helping. Well, I'm not saying that everything after that has been just really mellow and really right on, you know, and that I haven't had problems or that I haven't blown it. It's a really heavy trip with me that I met the Lord, and I'm 18 years old. Some of you are 17. I'm just 1 year older than some of you guys here. And I know what's happening through your minds. It's not an easy thing right now to be 17, 16, you know, 15, and grow up like this fast, going through institutions already. But when you get out of here, just make it. You know, don't only make it on the streets, getting a job. Don't only make it just getting it on with your parents, you know, and having a good time and not getting busted. You can do all that, but you got to make it with the Lord, too, that's for sure. Let's just say it this way, that I love you all right here, you know. I consider you all my friends. And I just don't want to see you end up in the institutions or, go through what I went through when you're 18 years old. That's all I have to say.
Will the defendant please rise?
It is a judgment of this court that having pleaded guilty to the crime of murder in the second degree, that you be sentenced to the Department of Corrections to be confined to prison for the term prescribed by law, 5 years to life.
I don't know what a few years in prison down the road is going to mean in this young man's life, but I do know that now he's got a firm and a confident faith, and while it's a terrible thing that a tragedy had to happen to make that change, yet the change is there.